There are moments in life when heaven goes silent, when you pray, you wait, you cry, and still nothing seems to move. You begin to wonder if God has forgotten your name. You wake up carrying burdens nobody understands, fighting battles nobody sees, holding on to faith by a thread. But today, this message is not an accident. You did not click on this video by chance. God is saying, stop scrolling, stop doubting. Just give me 2 minutes, because the sign you have been praying for has finally come to you. Something is shifting in your life right now. The delay is not denial. The struggle was not meant to destroy you. It was preparing you for the moment you are about to step into. God says there is a breakthrough connected to your obedience, a blessing connected to your faith, and a new season connected to your willingness to trust Him even when you could not see the full picture. Many people are waiting for a miracle while ignoring the signs God already placed in front of them. Sometimes, ease the sign is not dramatic. Sometimes it is a stirring in your spirit. Sometimes it is a closed door protecting you from destruction. Sometimes it is a sudden peace in the middle of chaos. And sometimes the sign is this very message reaching you at the exact moment you needed it most. So don't skip this video. Listen carefully, because what you hear today may unlock the answer you have been seeking for a long time. God is about to reveal why this season of waiting is coming to an end, and why your next chapter will be greater than anything you lost. There is a reason God does not reveal everything at once. If He showed you the entire journey from the beginning, you might become overwhelmed by the process required to reach the promise. That is why divine timing is one of the greatest tests of faith. Human beings are impatient by nature. We want answers immediately, blessings immediately, breakthroughs immediately. But God operates outside the limits of human clocks. What feels late to you is still perfectly on time in the eyes of heaven. Right now, some people listening to this message are frustrated because they thought life would look different by now. You expected the prayer to be answered already. You expected the opportunity to arrive already. You expected the pain to end already. But God says the waiting season had a purpose. Every delay was preparing your spirit for the blessing you asked for. Because if God gives you something before you are ready, the very thing meant to bless you can end up destroying you. Think about a seed planted into the ground. The moment it disappears beneath the soil, it looks like nothing is happening. Days pass, rain falls, darkness surrounds it. Yet beneath the surface, roots are growing quietly. Strength is developing in hidden places. And one day at the appointed time, that seed breaks through the ground with power. In the same way, your life may seem hidden right now. You may feel buried under pressure, disappointment, or uncertainty. But God says you are not buried, you are planted. Something is developing within you that cannot be seen yet. Many times people give up too early because they misunderstand silence. They think God's silence means absence. But silence does not mean abandonment. A teacher is often silent during the test. God is watching to see if you will trust Him when there is no visible evidence. Real faith is not believing after the miracle happens. Real faith is believing before the evidence appears. God says there are blessings being arranged behind doors you cannot see. Conversations are happening in places you have never entered. Opportunities are moving toward your life at this very moment. Heaven is aligning people, resources, favor, and timing together in a way you could never accomplish on your own. That is why you cannot judge your future based on your present circumstances. What you see now is only temporary. Sometimes God delays an answer because He is protecting you from something you cannot recognize yet. Other times He delays it because there is someone connected to your destiny who is still being prepared. Divine timing is never random. It is intentional. It is precise. It is wisdom beyond human understanding. So stop comparing your timeline to other people. Stop believing you are behind in life. A fruit picked too early is not ready to nourish anyone. In the same way, your season must mature before the full blessing can appear. God says your waiting has not been wasted. Every tear, every prayer, every sleepless night has been building toward this moment. The sign has come to remind you that heaven has not forgotten you. Your time is approaching, and when God moves, everything can change in a single moment. God is always speaking, but not everyone recognizes the language of His signs. Many people are waiting for thunder from the sky, a dramatic miracle, or an unmistakable voice from heaven. But often, God sends signs in ways that are quiet, unspoken, affected, and deeply personal. The problem is not that God has stopped communicating. The problem is that people have become distracted, discouraged, or too consumed by fear to notice what has already been placed in front of them. God says the sign has come to you, but the question is, will you recognize it? Sometimes the sign is a door that suddenly closes even though you prayed for it to open. You thought it was rejection, but God was protecting you from a future you could not see. Sometimes the sign is discomfort. You no longer feel peace where you used to belong. The environment that once felt familiar now feels heavy. That is not confusion, that is direction. God may be stirring your spirit because your season is changing. Many people ignore divine signs because they come wrapped in inconvenience. They want comfort, but God is calling them toward growth. They want certainty, but God is asking for faith. Understand this. Not every blessing arrives looking like a blessing in the bee. Some opportunities come disguised as challenges. Some breakthroughs begin with disruption. Some of your greatest transformations start with situations you never would have chosen for yourself. Think about your life right now. What keeps repeating? What burden has been pressing on your heart? What dream refuses to leave your mind no matter how much time passes? What lesson keeps showing up in different forms? Sometimes a repeated pattern is the sign. God will often repeat what you refuse to acknowledge. He will continue pressing on the same area of your life until you stop running from what He is trying to reveal. God says this message itself may be a sign for someone listening. Not because of coincidence, but because timing matters. You may have been praying privately, asking for clarity, direction, confirmation, or strength. And suddenly here you are hearing words that speak directly into your situation. That should make you pause. Because when heaven wants to get your attention, it knows how to reach you. But signs are not meant to entertain curiosity. They are meant to produce action. A sign on a road only matters if you respond to its direction. If you see a warning sign and ignore it, the consequences remain. If you see a sign pointing toward opportunity and refuse to move, you remain stuck where you are. God's signs invite participation. They require obedience. Too many people pray for guidance and then resist change when guidance appears. They ask God to lead them but refuse to leave what is comfortable. They ask for a new season but cling tightly to old habits, old mindsets, and old fears. But God says you cannot walk into a new chapter carrying everything from the previous one. The sign has come to awaken you, not to comfort your excuses. Something is shifting around you and within you. The delay you experienced was not meaningless. The pressure you felt was not random. The closed doors, the inner stirring, the unexpected turns, they were. All part of a larger picture being formed in your life. Pay attention. Pray with discernment. Listen carefully. Because God is not finished speaking, and what you recognize in this moment could determine the direction of your next season. Faith is powerful because it demands that you trust God before you see results. Anyone can believe after the miracle appears. Anyone can celebrate after the breakthrough arrives. But true faith is revealed in the waiting. It is revealed when nothing around you makes sense, yet you still choose to believe that God is working behind the scenes. Right now, there are people listening who feel emotionally exhausted. You have prayed for change, but the situation still looks the same. You have asked for healing, but the pain remains. You have cried out for direction, but the path still feels unclear. And slowly, disappointment has tried to convince you that nothing will ever change. But God says, do not allow temporary circumstances to destroy eternal hope. Faith before evidence means trusting God even when your eyes cannot confirm what your spirit already knows. It means waking up each day believing that your future is still in God's hands even when life feels uncertain. Understand this clearly. What you see is not the full story. There are things happening beyond your understanding. Heaven is moving in ways your natural mind cannot yet comprehend. Many people think faith is a feeling, but faith is actually a decision. Feelings change constantly. One day you feel strong, and the next day you feel discouraged. One moment you feel confident, and the next moment fear enters your mind. If your faith depends on emotions, it will collapse under pressure. Real faith stands even when emotions are unstable. It says, I may not understand what God is doing, but I still trust His wisdom. There will be moments when your circumstances speak louder than your prayers. Bills may increase. Relationships may become difficult. Opportunities may disappear. Doors may close unexpectedly. In those moments, fear will whisper that God has abandoned you. But fear is a liar. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean heaven is inactive. A seed underground looks lifeless before it breaks through the surface. Yet growth is happening in silence. God often allows seasons where your faith must grow without visible proof, because that is how spiritual strength is developed. If every prayer were answered instantly, there would be no need for trust. But trust is the foundation of a strong relationship with God. He wants you to rely on His character, not just His gifts. Anyone can praise God when life is comfortable, but it takes maturity to worship Him during uncertainty. Some people are one step away from breakthrough, but they quit because they expected instant evidence. They stop praying too early. They stop believing too early. They let delay convince them that denial has already happened. But God says your waiting season is not end. Every moment of trust is shaping your spirit for what is coming next. Faith also changes the way you speak. When you truly believe God is working, you stop speaking defeat over your life. You stop declaring hopelessness over your future. Instead of saying nothing will ever change, you begin saying God is preparing something greater. Instead of saying I am forgotten, you begin saying God's timing is still perfect. The sign has come to remind you that your faith is not wasted. Even now, while you cannot see the full picture, God is aligning events in your favor. The breakthrough may not have appeared yet, but movement has already begun. Hold your faith firmly. Because sometimes the greatest miracles are closest when everything appears the most impossible. Many people want blessings, but few understand the power of obedience. They pray for increase, favor, open doors, and breakthrough, yet ignore the simple instructions God places before them. But God says blessings, often hidden behind acts of obedience that seem small, uncomfortable, or inconvenient in the beginning. The miracle is not only in the promise, the miracle is also in the willingness to obey even when you do not fully understand the outcome. Obedience requires trust. It means moving when God says move, even if fear tells you to stay still. It means letting go of what is familiar when God is calling you towards something greater. Too many people delay their own breakthrough because they are waiting for complete certainty before taking action. But faith does not operate through complete certainty. Faith operates through surrender. Sometimes God asks you to forgive someone who hurt you deeply. Not because they deserved it, but because your healing is connected to your obedience. Sometimes He asks you to walk away from environments that are draining your spirit, even when it feels painful to leave. Sometimes He tells you to stop doubting yourself, stop living in fear, stop returning to habits that keep destroying your peace. These instructions may seem simple, but obedience in small things creates access to greater things. Many people think obedience is punishment, but obedience is protection. A parent warns a child not to touch fire because they understand the danger the child cannot yet comprehend. In the same way, God sees what you cannot see. When He closes a door, redirects your path, or delays a desire, it is not because He wants to harm you. It is because He understands the future consequences beyond your current vision. There are people listening right now who have been sensing God pulling them toward change, but fear keeps resisting the process. You know there are conversations you need to have, decisions you need to make, habits you need to break, dreams you need to pursue, but comfort has become a prison. God says your next level cannot be reached while you remain attached to what is keeping you stagnant. Obedience also means trusting God's process ever. And when others do not understand, people may question your choices. They may not understand why you changed direction, why you stepped away, or why you refused to settle for less. But not everyone is called to understand your assignment. When God gives you direction, your responsibility is not to seek human approval. Your responsibility is to obey. The truth is, delayed obedience often becomes disobedience. Every time you ignore what God is pressing on your heart, you prolong the season you are trying to escape. Some blessings are waiting on the other side of one difficult decision, one act of courage, one moment of surrender, one step of faith. God says there is favor connected to your obedience in this season. Opportunities will begin to open when you stop fighting the direction He has been showing you. Peace will begin to return when you stop resisting what needs to change. Strength will rise within you when you finally trust that God's wisdom is greater than your fear, the signature. And has come not just to inspire you, but to move you into action. Heaven responds when faith becomes obedience. And when you align your life with God's direction, doors can open that no human being has the power to shut. There comes a moment in every person's life when one season ends and another begins. The problem is that transitions are uncomfortable. Before a new chapter fully appears, the old chapter starts falling apart. Things that once made sense no longer feel right. People begin drifting away. Familiar routines lose their meaning. You feel restless, uncertain, and emotionally stretched. But God says, do not panic when the old season starts shaking. That shaking may be evidence that change is already happening. Many people pray for a new season, but when transformation begins, they mistake it for loss. They see doors closing and assume God has abandoned them. They experience delays and think they are being punished. But sometimes God removes what can no longer grow with you. Not every relationship is meant for your next level. Not every environment can sustain your purpose. Some things must end so greater things can begin. God says your season is changing because you have outgrown the version of yourself that once survived in smaller places. The mindset that carried you through previous battles cannot carry you into your next assignment. This is why you have felt tension within your spirit. Deep down, you know you cannot continue living the same way while expecting different results. Heaven is calling you higher. A new season often begins internally before it becomes visible externally. Before your circumstances change, your thinking starts changing. Your priorities change. Your desires change. The things that once entertained you no longer satisfy you. The distractions that once controlled you begin losing their grip. This is not accidental. God is preparing your spirit for where He is taking you. But every new season requires courage. You cannot enter a new chapter while constantly looking backward. Too many people miss their future because they remain emotionally attached to their past. They keep replaying old disappointments, old betrayals, old failures, and old pain. But God says, stop building your identity around what hurt you. Your future is bigger than your history. The enemy wants you to believe that nothing will ever improve. He wants you trapped in fear, convinced that your best days are already behind you. But God says the season ahead of you carries opportunities you have not yet imagined. There are connections being prepared for you. There are blessings you have not yet seen. There are prayers being answered in ways you never expected. This is why you must guard your mindset during transition. Seasons of change are vulnerable moments because confusion often tries to enter. Fear whispers, what if this fails? Doubt says, what if nothing changes? But faith says, if God brought me this far, He will not abandon me now. You must decide which voice will shape your future. Sometimes a season changes suddenly. One phone call can change your direction. One opportunity can alter your future. One divine connection can unlock doors that remain closed for years. Never underestimate how quickly God can shift your life when the appointed time arrives. What took years to struggle through can change in a single moment of divine favor. God says the sign has come to prepare your heart for what is next. You are not stuck forever. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. The pressure, the waiting, and the uncertainty were all part of the preparation process. A new season is approaching, and this next chapter will require greater faith, greater maturity, and greater trust. But it will also reveal greater peace, greater purpose, and greater blessings than you have ever experienced before. Before this message ends, hear this clearly in your spirit. God has not forgotten you. The delays did not cancel our destiny. The pain did not destroy your purpose. And the silence you experienced was never proof that heaven abandoned you. Even during the moments when you felt weak, confused, or exhausted, God was still guiding your steps in ways you could not see. The sign has come to remind you that your current situation is not your final destination. Something is shifting. Something is being prepared. The very struggle that almost made you quit is becoming the foundation for the testimony that will inspire others one day. God says the season of doubting yourself must end now. Stop speaking defeat over your life. Stop believing that your best days are behind you. Your future is still full of possibility. There are blessings connected to your faith, breakthroughs connected to your obedience, and opportunities connected to your willingness to trust God even when the path is unclear. Do not allow fear to keep you trapped in the place God is calling you out of. This is not the time to retreat. This is the time to rise. Remember this. Sometimes God will isolate you before He elevates you. Sometimes He will remove distractions before He releases purpose. Sometimes He will break your comfort zone because your calling is bigger than the life you have been settling for. Do not resist the process. The pressure is producing strength within you. The waiting is building endurance within you. The struggle is preparing wisdom within you. One day you will look back and realize that every closed door, every disappointment, and every painful season was leading you towards something greater. What felt like rejection was protection. What felt like delay was preparation. What felt like loss was actually redirection. So walk forward with confidence. Pray with expectation. Believe with courage. And when fear tries to return, remind yourself that God did not bring you this far to abandon you now. The sign has come. Your season is changing. And what is ahead of you is greater than anything you or left behind. If this message touched your heart, stay until the end because your breakthrough may begin with the faith to believe again.